presentation.
Happy holidays, happy Yuletide, whatever you guys are celebrating this season, and welcome to No Flicks Given. I am Matt. Joined with me are Connor and Peter. It's a mini it's a mini Fix-a-Flick reunion with me, kind of as the little attached guest, because Frank is out on assignment.
We now throw it to Frank live on location. Frank, how's it going?
No, fuck that guy. He's in Miami.
This is my island in the sun.
So yeah, we are continuing our No Bummers of 2023 with nothing terribly taxing or challenging this year. And this is a movie that has been on my list at least since it came out, and I'm glad that the calendar's rolled around again, that it's appropriate to watch it and feel festive while I'm doing it. But in case you didn't read the title, today we are going to be talking about Violent Night.
You ain't driving, are you?
I steer a little, but the ranger do most of the work.
This is my 4th year as a Santa. How about you?
I started the whole damn thing.
Ho, ho, ho! It's Christmas!
We decided that you could have one gift.
Early.
What is it?
That is a direct hotline to Santa Claus himself.
I can talk to Santa.
All right, revelers. Welcome to your worst Christmas ever.
Let's go!
You have $300 million in your personal vault. That's what I want for Christmas.
I don't want any trouble, okay? Someone's gonna scooch up that chimney.
Who is he? Because it's not your typical mall Santa.
Santa, are you there? Daddy said you were very busy tonight. My name's Trudy Lightstone. Are you gonna help us, Santa?
Yeah, Trudy.
Santa?
You're on my nice list. Santa Claus is coming to town. Time for some season's beatings.
Who the hell are you?
Boss, what if he really is the real?
No such thing as Santa.
These bad men, they're all on my naughty list. Naughty. That's naughty!
And what do you do to the naughty ones?
I give them a lump of coal.
Where is it?
I gotta watch.
I believe in you, Santa.
Come on. Which one of you did that? Prancer? So unprofessional.
A lot of just dumb fun to just like bring us into this holiday season.
Oh God, it was so dumb and enjoyable. I was laughing and cheering. It was everything I wanted it to be.
It is
no more and no less.
It is truly like adult Home Alone with like a touch of like really interesting new Santa Claus lore, and that's it.
Yes,
that's it.
Well, and you have a decent cast, and I am a sucker for anything David Harbour shows up in. So I was all for it when I heard that he was going to play Santa Claus. So I get it.
Yeah, the formula of Santa Claus gets dropped into a die-hard situation and must use Home Alone tactics to make it through the night. I did not expect to be nearly as charmed by this movie as I was. I was actually very nervous going in because the trailer does sort of have a certain amount of edgelord potential, you know?
Oh yeah.
Is in like this is all, fuck Christmas, this is all bullshit, or like we're gonna get laughs by juxtaposing disturbing violence with the holidays. But this movie manages to thread the needle, I must say, between goof 'em up action violence, some of the most obnoxious characters that also, but are that are standable, and also a heart. The movie's got a heart. That's the thing I was worried. That's the thing I was worried about. I was worried that this movie was not going to have a heart. And the thing that a Christmas movie must have to be a good Christmas movie, in my estimation, is a heart.
They may or may have not have been one of our criteria, I think, last year when we were talking about whether or not certain movies classified as Christmas movies.
Yeah.
I was just very pleasantly surprised. It was funny because the night that we decided to watch it was also a night that one of my friends, just apropos of nothing, had watched it earlier and was texting me going, "Have you seen this?" I was like, "We're about to." And they're a big John McClane Die Hard fan.
Mm-hmm.
So they just said, just wait for Die Hard 2 feels. And just like once you get to the snowmobile. And I was like, yep, no. And I would argue, do it better.
Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon.
Honestly, their strong Die Hard might be a little more apropos than Home Alone. There's certainly a cross section of the two, but fun setup, fun intro, and it does ride that line really, really finely, especially in the first like 30 minutes of that sort of edgelord, like I'm gonna be way too edgy for Christmas and fuck your little kid feelings. But it finds its warm, gooey center by about an hour in.
Yeah, you start off, Santa's clearly going through the motions a little bit. It was not unlike Fatman, which had me a little worried.
I've come for your head, Fatman!
You think you're the first?
Of a Santa who's hanging out at a bar and just is kind of over it. But then ultimately at the end of the day is really committed to his job for reasons that aren't necessarily clear quite yet. But the fact that he has committed to the bit, I think is what helps anchor the whole thing.
That opening set piece where spoilers. You should be used to the show by now. Spoilers if you don't want this ruined. But the opening set piece, he's sitting at a bar and just getting hammered and complaining about how nobody believes anymore. Everyone just wants the next thing, and everyone's really ungrateful about it. And it's all just video games and money. That's what anybody wants. And then the bartender is like, okay, yeah, whatever. Hope you have a ride tonight. He goes, yeah, whatever. And he goes up to the roof, and she's like, this asshole. And she goes up to get him and sees him, of course, flying away. And then he pukes on her head. And that was the moment when he pukes on her head that I was like, oh, fuck. That and the following montage where he's going
I had the
around the world.
I had the exact same experience.
So he's going, you see him take a whiz on DC, you see him like stealing beers from passed out dads in questionable situations, and it's just getting sort of worse and worse, and I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. I am not going to like this. I promise, get past that, get to the meat of the action, and it is worth it if you can sort of get through the blood and viscera of it all.
Yeah. Honestly, this is one of the few like high concept movies that I've seen recently, or that I can think of off the top of my head, that gets stronger in the second half.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of movies that have a weird concept or, a specific like design porn kind of thing will start off real strong at the very beginning. And we'll sort of like put all the cards down like the first third of the movie, and then once you actually get into the plot and the characters actually have to do something, they start to lose that luster and magic. And this movie does pull off the magic trick of only getting more magical.
The Christmas magic, Connor.
I'm not really sure how it works. That's my favorite bit. I don't know how
I
it
do
works.
love that nobody actually knows how it works, not even Santa.
But it's oh man, and I think, and something that I appreciate is that it's not explained at all.
No.
Is that it's just, this is kind of the deal, and he's been doing it for 1100 years, and this is just the way that it works, and he doesn't really question it that much, and it just, because we've grown up with the lore, we don't really question it that much either, but we're just here for it.
Yeah.
Since this movie's a little, I don't want to say obscure, but since it's not, something that many people would have stumbled upon, and probably not in many people's Christmas rotations because this movie only came out last year. Do we want to kind of do like a blow by blow of the film, to sort of plot point to plot point, and sort of discuss things around that?
Yeah. You want to take us through?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as Peter said, the movie opens with Santa in a bar, sort of drunkenly complaining about kids these days, or people these days, really. It's
yeah,
and how they just want the next thing. It's not about the magic. It's not about believing. It's about getting stuff. And then he takes off in his sleigh, and then we cut to the family, whose last name I should have probably...
Lightstone.
The Lightstones.
It's either a family or a private equity firm. It's really hard to tell.
So I don't know if you guys watched The Righteous Gemstones.
No, I haven't.
But so the obnoxious daughter, like the bad sibling of the two elder children that are vying for their mother's affection, she plays a very similar character in The Righteous Gemstones. And that's like all I could see, and I kept on thinking Lightstone, Gemstone, Lightstone. So it was a funny, I'm sure, unintentional connection.
Yeah, but the Lightstones are clearly very wealthy. The matriarch of the family seems to be the source of all this money. She's played by Beverly D'Angelo, and it's always great to see Bev.
Right?
It's always great to see Bev in a Christmas movie.
I love to see her playing heel a little bit.
Yeah, she's kicking ass too. Like her dialogue on the phone as she's walking in and out of the family room, just unleashing so much verbal abuse on what turns out to be a senator.
Listen, you cocksucker, it's Christmas, so why don't you take your best offer, gift wrap it, and ram it up your fucking box?
Is an inspired performance, and B just sort of says everything that you need to say about that character.
Yeah. It's a great introduction to not only her, but the relationship that she has with her family.
Mrs. Griswold. Yeah. And man, if you go through her IMDb, she has been in some terrible stuff.
Oh, well, I think that this one at least is a winner, because from what I was reading, it was popular enough that they might actually do a sequel. So
yeah,
I hope they bring her back for it.
Yeah.
Not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah, well,
they leave enough meat on the bone at the end that hints at some possibilities for a sequel. And on the Wikipedia, they talk about some ideas that have been thrown around for a sequel. So we can get there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to sort of say now, one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie was my experience was this is just it. It's just this.
Yeah.
Like they can make up random lore about Santa Claus because it's just this. We're just in, we're just out. And, I know this conversation happens a lot, but it's really nice to see a movie that's just a movie, and it's not an advertisement for the next movie.
Original idea, like and even the lore that they come up with for Santa isn't even fully explained, which I actually really enjoy. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I would have even enjoyed it more had they not even, if they had not even flashed back, I would have enjoyed it. I think just him talking about it and describing it, I think to me is more powerful than doing the thing where you're actually cutting to the moment.
Well, and the tattoos.
Oh,
and
man.
the scars.
Well, that's so.
Yeah.
This is the other. The whole thing about the movie is I think that it does a good job of showing and not telling.
Yes,
which should be at the core of any strong movie.
Showing, not telling when it comes to Santa Claus. The family's internal struggles are all spoken.
Yeah.
The fight between the family before the mom arrives, and even after the mom arrives, is all talk kind of clunky, but like in a way that I found very charming. There's a lot of filmmaking in this movie that it is like cheap and flawed, and in some cases not very graceful. But the fact that they do that, it brought up a sense of nostalgia in me because, you know, lots of movies used to be clunky and ungraceful and
slightly unpolished. And when we get to the end to talk about the fight with John Leguizamo, it's just sort of like, this feels like 1998 again. But we'll save it for when we get there.
Very much so. So yeah, to take it back to the plot, to finish the setup here. So Santa goes on his drunken ride, but we center on this family. There is an older estranged son named Jason, and he's estranged from his wife Linda and their daughter Trudy. And they're going to this compound for Christmas with the family. And during the setup there, you can kind of see, like, as they're setting up for this Christmas party, like, there are some clearly nefarious hired help that are giving, you can practically paint the bad guy, like, mustache on each of them as they're passed through. And it quickly turns into a hostage situation where John Leguizamo leads the crew and just starts to, first off, kill all of the regular hired help, like, really quickly.
I felt really bad about that.
I did too. And I was like, is that necessary? Couldn't you just, like, and I was like, I guess, like, you can't leave witnesses or...
It also sets him up as a perfect antagonist so that you are all on board with whatever terrible thing ends up happening to him.
That's also the Die Hard rule book.
It is true.
Yeah.
All of the Die Hard... I'm not sure if this is true or not, but I want it to be. But every Die Hard heist starts with some poor fucking security guard getting shot in the face, by a person who he thinks is totally innocent.
So Kareem rebounds, right? Feeds Worthy on the break, over to AC, to Magic, then back to Worthy, right? Boom! 2 points.
That's just how a Die Hard heist starts. So we are now in the Die Hard heist.
And all of this just happens to happen as Santa Claus arrives to the house, and he's eating the cookies, which are apparently pretty good, and drinking the milk that he's pissed off his skim, and then switches...
I'd be pissed too.
Well, doesn't he switch to whiskey after that? And then sets up in a massage chair.
Starts drinking a very, very old brandy.
Yes, that's what it is. And he sets up in a massage chair in this room, and he just, like, lets himself relax as he hears the gunshots. And then he tries to escape. And I loved this part. He tries to escape in his Santa fashion where he runs back to the chimney and he puts his finger against his nose, and there's this little spark of magic, and it doesn't work. And he's stuck there. And he's like, oh shit.
A little bit of performance anxiety.
You know, I don't know how the magic works, but it works like that. And then it quickly, a guy comes in because they're sweeping the house, and they get into a fight, and Santa's able to beat him. And one of the details that I love about this movie is at the very beginning, Santa is either not a good fighter or does not want to fight. He is not an expert. He's not fucking John Wick. He's just he is doing like survival fighting and not very good at it either. But he's able to incapacitate or kill that guy, and in the process, that guy shoots his gun and he scares away the reindeer, and now Santa's really fucking stuck in this mansion with all the bad guys, and that kind of kicks off the whole thing.
He doesn't just defeat him; he turns him into a goonsicle.
Yeah, he does.
Oh, that's right. He falls out the window. Yeah,
onto the upside down icicle for some reason. Not sure how that got there, but.
Yeah, for a second I thought maybe it was an ice sculpture or something, but it's unclear, but it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. Exactly.
Do you guys have a favorite kill in this movie?
Oh,
I do.
The Home Alone ones are pretty good. Mm-hmm. I found them quite cathartic. I don't know if I laughed as hard as when Scrooge, John Leguizamo's character, finally buys it, because it's also a culmination of setup payoff stuff.
That's a really good one. Yeah. That is I think the overall right answer.
Yeah. What is your favorite though?
My favorite is shortly after that. It's I think the second or third fight that he has in the basement in the rec room. The guy with the pool balls that he just like can't kill. He keeps on beating with the pool balls, and at the very end, he stabs him in the eye with the star from the top of a Christmas tree that's still plugged in. And then and what got me is when it lit on fire at the end, and I was like, "That's a great effect. That is so cool."
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, Violent Night is full of little, especially like the kills at the ends of the fights are full of little surprises with the setup and payoff. But like again, with like a little bit of surprise, it's just sort of like
Yes.
which is the exact sound I made when John Luke was when Scrooge finally died. I just wanted.
Yep.
So the next kind of plot beat that's important is right before everything happened, Jason gives Trudy, the little girl, a walkie-talkie because she was sad that she did not get to see Santa at the mall, and so he was like, "This is a direct line to Santa." So as they gather the whole family into sort of their large great room to keep an eye on him, she starts trying to talk to Santa, and it just so happens that Santa finds a walkie-talkie and is able to talk back, and this very cute relationship. This almost Argyle John McClane relationship, or what's the police guy? Was it Captain Winslow or Lieutenant Winslow or something? I
mean, Winslow is his character in Family Matters.
No,
but
yeah, so it's the same thing.
Sure,
Carl Weathers.
Carl Winslow.
Yeah. And they have this kind of back and forth about helping each other out, and she really inspires Santa to kind of believe in himself again, and they kill a lot of bad guys.
Well, and that's also evocative of another Bruce Willis vehicle that I used to watch a lot because it happened to be in the DVD collection in our house. But have either of you two seen Hostage?
I saw it once, like right when it came out.
So I think it's early mid-aughties, Bruce Willis, and it's essentially Die Hard in a rich person's home, where that's what it was.
Yeah,
it was
no,
just
you're
like
right.
They had to. But there's this relationship that he has where he has I forget whether it's actually a walkie-talkie or a cell phone connection with one of the kids in the house. And they set that up where in Hostage, it comes across as a little too saccharine sweet. And for some reason here, it works really well for me.
Man, this is a great cast for Hostage. Bruce Willis, Kevin Pollak, Ben Foster.
It's still probably problematic. I haven't seen it in like 15 years, but I remember it fondly.
I remember at the time people were like freaking out about Ben Foster's performance. They're like, this guy's going to be the next big thing. And then he was in X-Men, and that was kind of it.
Yeah.
No, Hell or High Water. He's excellent in Hell or High Water. Ben Foster's done some good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was one of those moments of like, new movie star. We found one. Mm-hmm. And then, he's an actor and talented, but just didn't blow up in the way that people thought that he was going to.
Yeah. On the same scale, though, or at least in this movie, I think what this movie does a lot better than Hostage is that it makes Trudy, the daughter, an active participant in everything that's going on. And and she does it in a way that is not annoying, unlike last week's film.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, speaking of things that are better in the second half than they are in the first half of this movie, Trudy's performance starts off kind of insufferable.
Yeah, it's
one of it's a similar thing where it's like the dialogue was written by somebody that doesn't hang out with kids very much. The performer is probably 10, and like the lines that she is given are like that of a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
But once she sort of comes into her own and stops being a little kid that's excited about Christmas, and becomes a kid that really believes in Santa and Santa's ability to murder,
and also her ability to be Kevin McAllister.
Yes.
Which that whole sequence, I love the fact that it, at least for me, was setting up something that I thought, oh, she's going to fuck up the Home Alone stuff and whatever. And then it turns it on its head and was like, nope. She was thinking a step ahead because she's also, seen Home Alone God knows how many times, but is a child of the 21st century.
Well, she talks about that insufferable moment. She talks about how she just saw Home Alone and that she loved it, and that's kind of what made it insufferable, because I'm sure when we were little, we all did the, slap your cheeks and scream thing too. Like, that's
for sure.
That's just what little kids do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but you're expecting her to screw up the traps, and she doesn't. That sequence is great.
Yeah, we're just gonna skip ahead to this sequence because I want to talk about it.
The rest of the movie is Santa essentially knocking and Trudy killing all of these henchmen one by one until we get to the end.
Yeah, it does kind of drag. It does kind of drag in the middle, but there's a really sweet scene that where he's sewing himself up. After he gets stabbed in the side, and
that is one of my favorite parts.
That is a like barnstormer of a performance from David Harbour.
That's the one that made me sit up and be like, okay, I'm on board with this movie now.
Yeah, David Harbour's ability to be gruff and angry but gentle is like a superpower.
How do you know who really needs you?
Christmas magic. I'm not really sure how it works. I remember when Trudy Lightstone wrote to me. She must have been about 6 years old, and she said that she felt lonely sometimes. She missed having a best friend. And so I brought her a beautiful little stuffed rabbit.
Mr. Bunny.
And then I remember the next year, and you said you had this amazing dream, and that afterwards all you wanted to do was...
To fly.
Why? I mean, Santa might have some magic, but making a little girl fly? But giving you a kite, floating just beneath the clouds. Well, it's about as good as it gets.
And like that is like David Harbour kind of in this era of his career sort of all over the place. But it's particularly on fire here because of the whole Santa thing. Because he's talking to a kid, and you get the sense that this Santa is not around kids very often.
Not awake ones. Yeah. No.
He doesn't really know that many kids. It's sort of like the idea of a kid, and this is an opportunity for him to get to know a kid, and like he likes this one, and David Harbour just plays that so beautifully.
Oh yeah, no, it gets me every time because he calls Trudy sweetheart a couple times during the whole thing. I'm like,
yeah. I did not list the places in this movie where I started to cry, but there were a few of them.
Even the pathos that he has. So at some point, Santa gets caught, and so he ends up in the room with two of the henchmen. And so they just think, so from their perspective, they just think he's a dude who's happens to be dressed as Santa who is at the wrong place in the wrong time. So they've got him tied up and whatnot. And John Leguizamo tells essentially his character's origin story of how he got in a bad way because his family was too poor during one Christmas. His dad got laid off. He ran into the next door neighbor's home who had everything and tried to steal a couple things and accidentally got the grandpa killed. And immediately after that, Santa's just like,
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I really am. But I do gifts. I do Christmas cheer. I don't get involved in people's lives.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, well, maybe you fucking should!
And first of all, we haven't heard John Leguizamo's character's real name up until that point. And two, you believe David Harbour when he says that to him. And it's and to John Leguizamo's credit too, of just like that moment of kind of having the wind knocked out of you a little bit of like your reptile brain going, is it Santa? Like that whole that scene between the two of them is just great.
That whole section, starting with the interrogation and then moving into the styrofoam snow coming in, where they have that moment where they all sort of freeze and look around like, is this Christmas magic? Is this fucking Santa Claus? Oh my God. And then they realize what's going on, which makes it even, and it's shot in that sort of like, in the way that movies with Santa will have a, is that really Santa?
Yeah.
And then Santa gets knocked over, does the nose trick up the chimney, and one of the henchmen sees it and is bought in. This is fucking Santa. And he says something like,
"Oh my God, it's his reindeer."
Which is in this sort of like childlike, but and he's also the biggest, scariest henchman.
Yep.
It's just like that character. Like, I am all in on that character from that moment on. Just like because like that's when shortly thereafter, the hit team arrives. So
very Die Hard 2.
Very Die Hard 2.
Die Hard on Blu-ray.
To catch us up to where we are, the family has apparently $30 million in cash, or is it 30 or 300? Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
$300 million of in cash given to them by the government to do dark and dirty wheeling dealings across the world. Blood money.
Yeah.
That the robbers are there to steal, and the Lightstones have hired a mercenary company essentially to come in and extract them when problems arise. And some of this is a waiting game for this mercenary team to show up. And it's sort of implied that the robbers have to be out of the house before the hit team arrives, or else they're going to die. They show up, and it turns out the hit team is on the bad guy's side because this is a Die Hard movie. And there's a scene where John Leguizamo is like briefing like the head mercenary on what's going on, and the large henchman is there and says, "It's Santa. The problem is Santa." And there was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Or no, the head mercenary is like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" And John Leguizamo has to be like, he made a joke. It's no
He's
big,
fucking around.
Not it's not Santa. It's a guy in a Santa suit. And shortly thereafter, the large henchman is done in by a Home Alone gag. Circling back to where I wanted.
I believe his code name was Gingerbread.
Yeah. Gingerbread.
Yeah. So the family is being held hostage while they're trying to get into the safe and all that sort of stuff. But the daughter gets away there's a whole sequence where they're torturing family members to try to see if they can get the information that they need. And I forget specifically how the daughter escapes that room.
There's a moment, and it's another really good scene. Damn, this movie's good. I wasn't sure before we started talking about it, but this movie's good. There's a moment where John Leguizamo, or one of the henchmen, one of the robbers, sees that she's been talking into this radio, and she wants to. They're trying to get information on like where Santa is out, or who Santa is out of the dad, which is why they torture him with the Nutcracker.
Oh God!
And she says basically, "I've been talking to Santa all night. He's like stop torturing my dad." And then they start leaning on the child for the information that they want, and out of desperation to get her to stop saying that she's been talking to Santa all night, the dad blurts out, "Santa isn't real."
Right.
Which is this amazing moment of like the realization of parental betrayal, an entry into the real world, a potential loss of magic that the daughter denies, and a bunch of armed murderous mercenaries who have all killed people in the last hour or so looking at it and going, "Oh, that's serious stuff, man." And at the end of that scene, she just runs out of the room. Like the robbers get distracted, and she just dead sprints out of the room.
Yeah,
and is small
ends
enough
up
to
in
hide.
the attic.
Yeah,
in the attic, there is a fantastic moment. Though there are a bunch of fantastic moments, but so she sets up a bunch of Home Alone traps. But before she does that, she saves Santa in a really fun way. This is another really fun moment. So Santa is cornered. Santa's in trouble, and he's about to get it when all of a sudden it starts snowing, and everybody stops, and starts looking around and is wondering, how is this happening? This must be Christmas magic. And she's just dumping like styrofoam bits like through the AC system. And it's like enough for Santa to get away. I thought that was a really fun and clever moment and really well executed too. But I know you guys want to talk about the piece de resistance, where a little girl just kills a bunch of grown people with with booby traps.
So, first of all, the score starts to sound like the Home Alone score. I don't know if you guys tracked this.
Kind of does, yeah.
It starts taking on the
Yep.
And the mercenaries know, the robbers know that the kid's in the attic, so they run up to the attic, and when they get to like the ladder to the attic, they are confronted with a pad that has a bunch of nails and screws sticking up on the floor, and a single nail driven into one of the steps on the ladder. And they're like, okay, this kid's trying to Home Alone us. That you've done a terrible job. You fucked this up. And then they have the confidence of people that have, uncovered a trap. The large male robber Ginger goes to climb the ladder up to the attic, and when he steps on the first step, it breaks out from under him, and his head slams into the nail that's been driven upward into the step of the ladder, going through his mouth, through his chin, through his mouth.
Yep.
And again, it's one of those moments where I was so surprised I made the ha-ha sound and was just like, oh, this movie's genius. I get it. When he frees himself, he then falls backwards onto the pad of nails and screws, impaling his back. While this is all happening, Trudy has set up a mechanism with some railing and an exercise trampoline to just unleash an avalanche of bowling balls, which hits the female robber.
I think Candy Cane is her nickname.
Candy Cane, I guess, yeah. As she's coming up the ladder, of course, hits Ginger a bunch of times.
Yep.
But the cherry on top is that Ginger finally stands up after everything he's been through.
He pries himself off of the bed of nails,
and just a river of blood is following him, and he does something that I was a little confused by, and then it made a lot of sense. Pulls a nail out of his butt and holds it above his face and looks at it with curiosity. I'm assuming the blood loss has made his decision making not so good.
Yeah.
And a final bowling ball comes crashing down and drives the nail in between his eyes.
Oh, man.
Causing him to fall back on the pad. Like, I'm sure he was dead at that point, but
just
watching
insult
him
to
fall
injury.
right back. Yes.
And it reminded me of, I forget who made, it might have been Corridor Crew, but the guys that made the If Home Alone Was Realistic
I think
video
I know what you're
with
talking
the
about,
actual injuries that Marv and oh my God, Harry
Marv, yeah, the Wet Bandits.
Jesus, the Wet Bandits would have gotten in Home Alone, in the Home Alone films. There was another sort of like haha moment where I was like, this is what it would look like. Holy shit.
That's true. I kept thinking that. I was like, this is what Home Alone would have actually been. Yeah.
And then there's a few more traps where she gets the Candy King gets glued to the floor briefly.
Oh God, yeah. What is that type of really? Is that like that's almost like bug stick or whatever it is to like make sure that it? Yeah, it's
bad. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
It takes a piece of her scalp with it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
that was rough. Yeah.
There's cinder blocks on ropes.
Yep.
I forget what the last trap was. It was basically a crossbow or something. No, not like a crossbow, but like a slingshot of some kind that just didn't work very well.
Oh yeah, now I don't know why the hell I can't remember now.
And Candy Cane's about to shoot Trudy until Santa Claus shows up with a sledgehammer and punts her across the room with it. Now to talk about the hammer, I guess we gotta go back a couple of scenes.
We got to talk about the hammer. Yeah.
Back with Santa. During the scene where he's sewing himself up and talks to Trudy, that we were talking about earlier,
which by the way, he's bandaging himself together with wrapping paper after he sews himself, which and a bow, which I thought, and he ties the bow perfectly, which is just.
Oh god, this movie's just so fucking clever. That's what it is. It's clever. I don't know if this movie's good, but it's clever.
Yes.
I was just wrapping something up.
But he takes his coat and his shirt off because he's wounded on the side to start sewing himself up. And you see that he's covered in runic, vaguely Celtic, but certainly Viking-looking tattoos. And you're like,
and no short order of scars.
Yeah, and a ton of scars.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck is this?
Santa?
We find out that in Santa's previous life, he was a warrior of some kind. It's implied to be Viking.
Yeah.
And the Vikings were kind of everywhere. So, you know.
It was a profession, not an ethnicity.
Not a people.
Yeah.
They were people that Viked.
Yes.
And it's sort of implied that he is Santa now as some kind of penance, but it's not explicitly said. It could be anything.
Yeah.
But he was deadly with his favorite Warhammer Skull Crusher.
But I love that that's all you get. You just get, he was a Viking. You get nothing else. You don't get like this was a curse or a blessing or whatever. You just get, he was a Viking just so we can bring this hammer into it. And that's it.
Yep. Something happened. Now he's Santa. That's all I ever wanted.
Yeah. It's all you need. It's all any of us need.
Again, I would still argue it's more powerful if you don't do the flashback and you just sit with David Harbour telling the story.
I found the image of him with the helmet covered in blood like useful as this is what's potential, like as a visual way of saying like this is what's in potentially Santa.
Fair enough.
You know, we could call up this guy if we need to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And boy, howdy do we. Because before the Home Alone sequence happens, he's on the radio with Trudy talking about how he thinks this is probably it. We've probably lost the day here. The army of mercenaries has showed up. They have way more firepower than I can deal with. This was going to be tough, even when there wasn't an army here.
He's holed up in a shed.
He's hurt again. He fell off the house.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Jesus.
And Trudy winds up asking him essentially like,
just this once. If you could have anything in this world, what would it be?
I wish I could see Mrs. Claus again. Tell her how much I love her.
And the fact that this Santa is such a wife guy really, really touched me. Like, she's brought up, don't know anything about her, but we know that Santa really fucking loves her.
Oh, yes. And
he takes off his wedding ring to sort of examine it, admire it, and it falls out of his hands and rolls into the darkness. And he's like, shit. He's on his hands and knees trying to catch the ring before it rolls away forever. And what does it roll into but a red, silver sledgehammer?
Oh, yes. And that's the great part is that you as the audience know what's coming next.
Yeah.
And then it goes less from Die Hard and more like The Raid.
Yeah. Well, then Trudy says, don't you deliver something to the naughty list kids too? And he says, yeah. Lumps of coal.
And she said, go give them their lumps. Yeah.
Go give them their lumps. Yeah. And then I started crying. That was one of the parts. And then like this is sort of like the starring fight sequence sort of kicks off, and it's him versus anywhere between 4 and 10 mercenaries. You can't really tell; they're all wearing the same thing. But we can see kills as inventive as using the sledgehammer to hit people, which is what it's for. Well, not really, but that's what he's good at. But he also starts sucking on a candy cane at the very beginning of the fight scene, a really big one.
Set up and payoff.
And at the end of the fight scene, he has sucked it down to a point, and he just starts stabbing people in the throat with it. We also get an inventive sequence where ice skates are used as boxing gloves.
Okay.
Oh,
anyone that's ever played hockey before, anyone that's ever been to an ice rink before has done this, where you just like stick your hands into the skates and you're like, I have knife hands now, except he actually killed people with it.
Well, or you've watched enough hockey and or ice skating or sporting events at an ice rink and seen somebody generally accidentally slice over somebody else, and just how that is.
Yeah,
they're actually very sharp. A professional player accidentally died earlier this season in England, and now it seems like all professional levels will be wearing neck guards. Finally.
Oh shit.
If you didn't pay attention to hockey, there's no way you would know it. He was playing in the minor leagues in I guess in the highest league that you can play in England, which is like, below junior A in the States, but freak accident, good Canadian kid, got out of the neck and died. And it's not the first time, but this it looks like is actually evoking change in the professional hockey circuit. And that has been Peter with your sports corner.
Oh, I got a sound effect for that.
I don't know whether this helps to change the tone, but one of my favorite hockey memes is it's just a 2-shot, and it is the second shot is of a referee who's been sliced in the mouth, and he's holding his face up, or his hand up to his face like whatever, and he's being helped by guys. But somebody took that, and the first is he used to play for the New York Rangers, but he has these bright blue eyes, so you can always see him through his mask. And it looks like him up to the ref just before it, and he says, "Santa isn't real." To get us back on the track.
Thematically appropriate.
The other thing, yes. Sorry, to finish up the action scene, but I have a note about that.
No, that's pretty much the end of the action scene. I mean, from there we go to the end of the Home Alone scene. So while this is happening, the Home Alone scene is also happening sort of concurrently.
Yeah, both of our protagonists are kicking ass at the same time. And something that I did appreciate too I noticed about the movie in general is that for its action sequences, it stays with the moment a lot more than modern action movies tend to. I think a lot of sequences in the shed, if they aren't actually, they are made to appear as if it's one shot for like good, like solid minute, 90-second sequences. And just being able to sit with what's happening, to me, is always a far more impressive thing than all the fast, frenetic cutting.
Yeah. No. This movie, I assume this movie was made by stunties.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It is very it is very stunt guy-y or stunt team-y. It looks a lot like when a stunt team will shoot a demo of a fight that they've been designing, or where it plays out in the wide.
Did you go through the director's resume?
I did. I was
highlights include Dead
Tommy
Snow.
Wirkola.
Yep, Tommy Wirkola. So Dead Snow, he is Norwegian. He's only 44. He's a young dude. So he must have made Dead Snow when he was like maybe 30, 29.
He was, it came out when he was 30.
Dead Snow, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
Oh, hey.
Dead Snow 2. He made a movie in 2021 called The Trip, which I'm not familiar with. And one in 2017 for Netflix called What Happened to Monday, which I'm vaguely familiar. Or I think I
saw
remember.
A trailer for that back in the day.
And that's kind of it.
Yeah.
So he does generally like winter set action films that get a little bloody.
Yeah. Well, he is Norwegian. Yeah, it's weird. When I read this, I misread this Wikipedia article when I looked at it last night. I thought he was somehow involved with troll hunters, but he is not.
Just the care and creativity by which they approach every set piece in this movie is really what, especially because a lot of it starts to really ramp up in the second half of just leaning into the fact of let's do Die Hard with Santa Claus and just move us from set piece to set piece, but with enough of a human core to one of the characters involved that you're actually invested emotionally.
Yeah. CGI blood wasn't great, but
yeah, I mean, that's a budget thing. Yeah, I feel like that's more a budget thing than really anything else.
Totally.
But otherwise, I think for the most part, the kills of the violence are entertaining.
Yeah. Speaking of the second half being better than the first half, they clearly saved all of their money for the second half of the movie.
Oh yeah,
because the early stuff in the house is a little sparse. But that's not like a problem. It's just a thing that I noticed. Concurrently to all this going on, there's the money plot. We have John Leguizamo as Mr. Scrooge trying to figure out where the money is and where it's going. They do have a Die Hard timed vault scenario going on. And when the mercenaries arrive, the head mercenary shows up with a key to the vault, and when they open the vault, there's no money in it. Come to find out that Trudy's father had stolen it from his mom for reasons that he's trying to get out from under her thumb, but
by stealing his inheritance.
I'm not sure exactly how that was going to play out in the future, but neither did he apparently. So there you go.
Yeah,
I do like how they point out like this is a dumb plan.
Yeah,
he's also. I mean, but you get the impression that he's a little behind the mark on a few things. Like he's not the most sharp, despite the fact of being the favorite son. Apparently,
they torture the dad to find the money, and it turns out it's in the nativity scene outside under some hay. Don't know how that. Okay, cool.
Whatever. Doesn't matter.
The next scene had to happen there, so that's where it happened.
Yeah.
And this is when so they pull the money out and Mr. Scrooge says, "Okay, we found the money. Time to kill the family so we can leave."
Yeah.
And throughout the film, there has been the psycho henchman. There's always a psycho henchman. The henchman is there that kills people because he likes killing people, not because that's part of his job. What was his code name?
Oh, I forget.
Oh, was he Krampus? I think he was Krampus.
Oh, he's Krampus. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Totally right. He's Krampus. So Krampus, who was also the guy that sort of like instigated the "there is no Santa Claus" conversation.
Yeah.
Kind of pretty good performance from him.
Yeah.
It was like, cool. All right, time to die. Everybody stand up. And I forget how he gets distracted. They
start an argument with each other about who should die first.
The remaining family members, exactly. The remaining family members start a argument about who he should shoot first, and it's not one of those like self-sacrificial shoot me first, please spare my family. No, it's literally shoot my aunt because I don't like her very much.
Yeah.
The other members of the family that we have left are the father's sister, who's a total bitch. One of the worst people in the world. Written, if you punched into ChatGPT, write me the worst character in the world, you would get this.
Yeah.
And her son, who is a streamer,
Bertrude.
Bertrude. It's not a real name. Bertrude. You know that, right? So they get into they get into the Spider-Man pointing at each other meme. Positions. And while this is all going on, somehow Krampus gets distracted enough that they all pull fire implements out, fire pokers and shovels out of the fireplace and beat him to death with them. That's it. They do a fake out where they think he's dead, and then turns out he's not dead. And then then the aunt shoves the poker in his neck, and then he's dead.
Yep. And then he's dead. Yeah.
But nice little moment, and also the family coming together. That's when Santa shows up.
The true meaning of Christmas.
And he's like, "Hi, I brought your daughter back, and also I'm Santa."
Mm-hmm.
And the family is literally like, "We'll deal with that later."
Yeah.
He says, "Anybody know how this gizmo works?" Which is a rifle.
I like that note that he has no idea how to deal with firearms.
Yeah. And then a shootout ensues over the nativity scene, which buys Santa the time and attention to sort of flank the soldiers that are around the nativity scene and kill them with hammers, and also pieces of the nativity scene, I think.
Some of that happens, but that's also part of the scene where the mother and father fight off one of the last henchmen around the nativity.
Yeah.
For that moment of family coming together to commit a murder.
Yeah, I love the way they juxtapose that shit, because it's like it is in no way like mistaken holiday family coming together stuff. It just looks like it, you know?
Yeah.
In this particular context, and it's horrifying, and it's really I love the balance that they strike with it.
Yeah, I wish a little bit more that some of the family got more comeuppance, because you establish pretty early on that they're not great people to begin with. But at the end of the day, I didn't care as much as making sure that the John Leguizamo's crew get it.
Right. Speaking of which, John Leguizamo and the head mercenary run away on snowmobiles, dragging the money behind them, I guess, presumably.
Yeah.
I just want to get to the John Leguizamo Santa fight. That's all I want.
Yeah, suffice it to say, there's a snowmobile fight chase. It's fine. Santa uses
better than Die Hard 2?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Baron McLean, I got a life for you. I got enough friends.
And we wind up in I don't know how many people in the audience spent any amount of time in the woods in a place that's an old corner of America, but sometimes when you're in the woods, you just find a chimney.
Yep.
Because a house will have burnt down or rotted away, and that's what's left, and that's where we find ourselves. I guess there's a shack in which that the fight sort of partially takes place in, but the end of the snowmobile chase winds up with Santa having hit a stump, flown into the shack, and it starts with John Leguizamo just unloading a rifle at the shack, and then pulling out his pistol and emptying it into the shack as well. When that was it's 1998 moment.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know? That's sort of like this happened. This just used to happen in movies. And then a fight ensues. Peter, do you want to go into the you seem like you really want to go into the blow by blow of the fight.
I don't want the blow by blow. I just want the end.
No, it's the end part.
It's the end part.
Yeah.
But before that, at some point, the shack pretty much explodes, catches fire, and then Santa drops his naughty and nice list, which is the moment that John Leguizamo finally does truly realize and believe that this is Santa, which only makes him angrier.
I was supposed to say, he really doesn't care. He really doesn't care.
Well, it makes it even, and I understand it from his perspective, it makes it even worse. There's this magical being who has literal magic and gifts to children and couldn't help his family when they were in need.
And not only
so
that,
it's like
he's
more
still on the
reason.
naughty list. Yeah.
And more's the point. It is revealed throughout the movie that that Mr. Scrooge, John Leguizamo's character, hates Christmas.
Oh yeah.
Just hates Christmas. It reminds him of all of the things that he never had. It reminds him of the time that he may or may not have been responsible for the death of an elderly gentleman.
Yep.
It reminds him of the ways that he was given the short straw in his life, and in like the third act of this fight, John Leguizamo, playing a man named Mr. Scrooge, says,
I think my whole shitty life's built up to this moment, because when I kill you, this whole goddamn holiday finally ends. Whatever it takes. Christmas dies tonight.
That's the stakes of this fight now. It's not just survival, it's Christmas. Christmas is on the line here, folks.
And for the most part, he's about to achieve his goal.
John Leguizamo is absolutely winning this fight too. It's revealed at a certain point in the fight, about halfway through, that he has what are those things called? Cleats, crampons, whatever. He has attachments to his shoes that give him traction on the ice, that gives him the upper hand over Santa.
Yeah.
He's fighting with a police nightstick and an ice axe,
which is a great combo because he gets introduced with the baton at the very beginning. That's for whatever reason his weapon of choice, which is kind of strange. So no, it's Especially anytime there's a fight with an ice pick, or an ice axe, a ice climbing axe. I'm like, yes, I love it. I don't know why, because I guess it's one of those things where, like, if you've ever been in a sporting goods store and you just see them, you're like, I absolutely want a fight scene with this. Like, it just feels so natural. Yeah.
This is designed to go into somebody's skull.
Yes.
Yeah. Santa is going to lose the fight. At one point, he has his hand pinned to the fireplace.
The mantle. Yeah.
The mantle with a knife. And he does the thing. We all know he's going to do the thing. He does the thing where he pulls his hand down through the knife, splitting his hand in half to try to save himself. They get into a grapple, and Santa says something about the magic of Christmas. I don't remember what he says.
None of you still believe.
And he just sort of he gives John Leguizamo a big bear hug and just taps his nose. A little spark of Christmas magic flies off of it, and they both go up the chimney. And Santa comes out of it.
Santa's meant to go up the chimney.
And John Leguizamo got folded in half the wrong way, like that guy in The Blob, and explodes into a rain of blood and viscera. And Santa is left standing on top of the chimney with a torso and says, "Ho ho ho." Oh no, he laughs.
But it's
also,
ho ho ho.
Another point for David Harbour. He figured out how to make ho 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 sound like an actual laugh coming from a real man.
Yeah.
Well, and then
bless him.
Immediately after that, he gets shot in the chest about 6 times.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, there are still other guys out there. It's a great moment. It's a great twist.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the man that shot him was the head
head of SEAL
mercenary,
Team 6, yeah,
who was hired by Beverly D'Angelo to protect the family, and she shows up, saves the day by shooting the guy in the head. Yeah, and then they have to.
All looks lost. Santa dies ostensibly.
Yeah,
but because everybody just believes enough, not unlike the rules with Tinkerbell, it brings him back to life. And why? We don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Christmas magic.
Christmas. We know how Christmas magic works.
He even says he never really understood it.
There's also a bit where they decide they need to keep him warm, and they do that by burning much of the money.
Yeah, that was a little like whatever.
That kind of got lost in the sauce for me, but
it's a little end of Wonka. It's the so shines a good deed in a weary world. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but like at that point, it's like, well, then throw it all in the chimney, set it on fire so that it builds like an actual fire as opposed to just like wherever around Santa.
Of course, this is the dad doing this.
He's a little dumb. Yeah, it's fine.
Established, he's a little.
We expect
dim.
this. Yeah, we expect this from his character. But Santa comes back to life, and he's earned his Christmas spirit back, all thanks to Trudy. And then his reindeer show back up after having abandoned him nearly 80 minutes ago.
Because the plot needs them to.
They also had to get his spare bag because one of the things while he's being interrogated, they throw his magic bag.
We didn't talk about the bag moment.
Oh, the bag is pretty good.
Yeah.
So during the Santa, Mr. Scrooge, interrogation scene, Santa's magic bag is thrown in the fire.
Yeah.
And what does Santa exclaim when the bag goes in the fire? You guys remember?
I believe it's like
children's.
Those are children's dreams or something like that.
That bag was full of kids' dreams.
Oh, come on. Everybody knows that Christmas dreams are bullshit.
Screamed. And not just stated, not just said.
No.
Screamed as if a member of his family was dying.
Yeah.
No, this bag was. No, I'll play the clip.
With the conviction that only David Harbour can give us.
It is wonderful.
As we've learned throughout the runtime of this film.
Oh, it's so good. So good.
But thankfully, the reindeer show back up with his spare bag, and he is able to take off and continue the rest of the night.
And he does say Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night.
Yeah. And theoretically, he's off to go, finishes his route and bid a lovely good evening to Mrs. Claus again because he gets to see her.
Yeah. And then go through a lot of physical therapy and recovery.
I mean, Christmas magic might help with that a little bit.
It might.
So,
It might.
Yeah.
It might.
And then there's an early mid-credit scene where Bertrude live streams the corpse of a mercenary in the living room, and then credits.
Hey, yo, what's Gucci Squad fam? It's the Bert, Locker, living the dream. You know it. See this guy? Dead as hell. Santa's real, all right? Don't end up on the naughty list. Do better. Bert lights don't out.
Again, like, as far as you can go with that character, fine.
Yeah. And it's a well performed, done moment.
Yeah. And and that's the movie. And I think I love it.
Yeah, I don't know if love is quite the right word, but damn, do I have a lot of respect for it.
It's a movie that I appreciate despite its flaws, because it's got a couple, but there's enough heart and chutzpah to it that it's just, I can't help but love it because it fully commits.
Yeah. And if it didn't fully commit, if it was ever winking at the screen or tried to be more
too edgy.
Yeah, more edgy, more edgelord, it would be fucking awful.
It would be terrible.
It would be insufferable. But the fact that there is not an ounce of cynicism in this movie, at least on the screen, makes it kind of a joy.
Well, that was the word I was about to use, is that for all of the violence and blood and everything that happens, it's such a joyful film.
Yeah.
It really is. Like it like I said at the beginning, like it does just toe that line so fine, but at the very end it does find its like Christmassy gooey center. And that is really what brings it all together, because it could have just like gone off the deep end and been Santa vs. the Martians a la Die Hard and just like blood and guts everywhere, which there is plenty of still. But it does find its heart, and it's really lovely.
Which is why I guess, Connor, you don't want a sequel.
Exactly. Well, I just want it to be it. I just want this to be its own thing. I don't.
Yeah, I know. You don't want a franchise. I get it.
Well, it's not even I don't want a franchise. It's just like I don't see what.
Haven't we said all we needed to say?
Precisely. Yes. Haven't we said?
Must we go tropical?
Can I read you what the Wikipedia has to say about it?
I'll let you pitch me.
So apparently, David Harbour in an interview last year said that there were discussions of Mrs. Claus appearing in a potential sequel, and expressed an interest to see Charlize Theron in the role. That same year, the director Wirkola said that there have been ongoing discussions about potentially setting something at the North Pole with Mrs. Claus and elves factoring into the story somehow.
So it's just the night the reindeer died?
It's Lee Majors, the $6 million band.
Santa, is there a back way out of this place?
Of course there is, Lee, but this is one Santa that's going out the front door.
Look, it don't matter a hill of beans what happens to me. The world couldn't afford it if anything happened to you. Now you stay put.
Oh, that's very nice of you, Lee. And Lee, you're being a real good boy this year.
Yes, you sure have.
7 o'clock. Psycho sees Santa's workshop. Eat this. And only Lee Majors can stop them. The night the reindeer died.
Could be.
Or the night Santa went crazy.
That's a better joke than you guys are giving me credit for. I'm putting in laughter.
All right. Where's my applause button? There we go. Applause.
Do you guys know the Weird Al song, The Night Santa Went Crazy?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was singing that to myself today, I think, as
a
result of watching this movie last night.
Yeah. It kind of fits.
But yeah, I get it though, because like I don't think I want to know more about the lore of Santa. I just want to see Santa out in the wild. Like I don't want to go back to where he lives.
Right.
One of the great parts about the Santa Claus is that like it's a dude who doesn't really know any of the rules, who has to learn as he goes along, and a lot of it doesn't get explained to him. Once you get into the second movie, it's like it's the whole Christmas industrial complex that exists at the North Pole. It's like it's cool, man. Like I don't need that.
Yeah. And also like, as much as I enjoy the John Wick sequels, I found the pulling back the curtain on the world of the assassins to be
too much.
It's hard to beat the
unsatisfying?
original. Yeah. There's just enough mystery there. Yeah.
I mean, I think that is a lesson among many that the filmmakers here learned from John Wick, of sort of like, there's a world out there. People that understand it might mention it, but we're not going to explain it. You don't need to know for it to be interesting. And in fact, it might be more interesting if you don't.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see. I mean, it for coming out like a year ago, it made what, $80 million on a $29 million budget. So like it did enough business for what it needed to do.
Yeah, hell yeah. So
regardless of what happens, I'm glad that this exists.
Here's a question.
I'm happy for having seen it.
Here's a question. Is this going to enter your guys' yearly catalog of the Christmas movies you got to watch?
It might. I was thinking about that while I was watching it, of like, I could watch this every year, I think.
Peter, what do you think?
It would be a really interesting triple feature if you did go in order Die Hard, Home Alone, this.
Oh, yeah, that'd be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a day. That's a commitment.
That's a day that I imagine I will not have the ability to do for a long time.
No,
but if I ever did, it would be a lot of fun.
That'd be one of those things like if you like went all out for decorating, right? Like it's not just putting up the tree and maybe some garland on the fireplace. If it was like literally like every square inch of the house gets covered and it was an all day project. I can see that. I can see putting them on in that order, sort of in the background for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Connor?
I'm undecided. I do tend to indulge in the sappiest Christmas fare this time of year. Like the things that I'm really going for, like It's a Wonderful Life and White Christmas and like shit that's gonna make me cry because I'm 37 and I'm trying to get into Christmas.
Yep.
So I'm not sure. We'll have to check in next year.
I was gonna say there's only one way to find out. Watch it again next year.
Yeah. You know what has made my rotation from episodes past is Klaus.
Oh
yeah.
I will not be watching that this year.
No.
Katie won't watch it with me because it's too sad.
Yeah, Klaus made me do a thing in front of my family last year that they had never seen before and actually scared them. I cry laughed. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this.
Yeah.
Where you're both laughing and crying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I was like openly fucking weeping. I lost it. I lost it.
Another movie in a similar vein that has entered my holiday pantheon that I will also not be watching this year is a film called 8-Bit Christmas. Have you guys seen this movie?
I've never even heard of this movie.
I think so.
Okay, Matt, you're not allowed to watch this movie. Connor, you absolutely should watch this movie. It's Neil Patrick Harris retelling the year that he wanted a Nintendo, an NES. And it's very much it is the spiritual successor to A Christmas Story, and it does it really, really well.
Oh, okay.
And it's basically the Christmas Story, but set in the 80s in the suburbs of Chicago. And it is lovely and heartfelt. I believe you can find it on HBO. I think it's an HBO original.
It's
strong recommend.
Okay.
Right.
I will have to check it out.
Yeah. Well, gents, do we think that we have enough Christmas magic in us for one more show before the big day?
I reckon we do.
I think we do.
All right. I won't spoil anything for anyone because, as we've learned, Christmas magic is better when you don't know how it works. But I would suggest that they stay tuned.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, remember to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at NoFlixGivenPodcast. See you next time.